Hi, this is Math with Siddig. I am going to do a short video on adding and subtracting polynomials. This is just a refresher, or if you missed it or you're trying to do it and you're like, I can't remember how to do this. So for adding and subtracting polynomials, I just wrote an example on the board, and then what I did is I just wrote through kind of the steps. So the first thing that you do with this is you want to look at what kind of a sign you have between them. And whatever that sign is, and you don't have to distribute if you don't want to. Some students just like to think of it as subtraction, and this is not the only way to do this. I'm going to do the vertical method right now. Okay, I can show the horizontal method also if someone wants me to. So what you do is you make sure that you take this and distribute it through the second parenthesis. So if this were a minus, it would change the sign of everything following it. Because it's a positive, this stays positive, this stays negative, this stays positive. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to align or match up my like terms. To be a like term, they have to have exactly the same variable to exactly the same power. So here, notice I have a fourth power. I don't have any other fourth powers, so I don't have a number to align with this 5x to the fourth. So underneath it, I'm going to write a 0. Now notice I have a squared power. So I'm going to look through the rest of my terms and notice that here I've also got a squared power, and I'm just changing the signs, the colors, so that you can see why they match up. Those match up because they're exactly the same x squared. They have to have the same, I call it the last name. All right, then here I've got just a plain 7x to the first, and here I've got an 8x to the first, so I'll line that up underneath. Now, you might notice that I have one that I haven't touched yet, and that's this 3x to the third, because what happened is, even though it's part of the second polynomial, it didn't have anyone to line up in the first polynomial, so I still have to bring it along. So the idea is, if it doesn't have someone to join with, if it doesn't have someone to combine with, it's still allowed to come with and be part of the answer, and you have to remember it and keep it as part of your answer. All right, now that they're aligned, you go ahead and add up or subtract, depending on the signs, the coefficients, with no power change. So 5x to the fourth plus 0, because there was nothing to combine it with, leaves us with 5x to the fourth. 3x squared minus 6x squared, they're opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract. That's 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. The 6 is bigger, so it gets to keep its sign, so I get negative 3x squared. Now I have negative 7x plus 8x. That's another subtraction problem, so 8 minus 7 is 1, and it keeps its x. And then that 3x to the third plus 0 is 3x to the third. Okay, that's the answer, but your best rule now is to go ahead and put it in order of the power. So here, 5x to the fourth is the biggest power. It's a degree 4. Next would come my x cubed. Next would come my x squared. And last would be my 1x. And that would be the answer. Now, that's not the only way to do these. You can certainly do these horizontally. I've just found that if you're really struggling, the vertical is almost a better visual. The one thing you have to watch out for on the vertical is any missing terms that don't have someone to combine with. So the next one, I'm going to go ahead and do a subtraction problem, and I'm going to do it the horizontal method, just so that you can see it. All right, my first step for the horizontal method is I'm still going to go ahead and distribute through the second parenthesis. So this minus is now going to change this to a negative 3x squared. It's going to change the negative to a positive 4x to the third, and it's going to change the positive to a negative x. The next thing that I do is I collect my like together. So instead of aligning them vertically, I'm going to put them in line together horizontally. So my first power is a 4x to the third. The next matching term is this 4x to the third, so I'm going to put them together so I can remember to combine them. Then I've got a 2x squared. My next squared is here, so I'm going to put those together because they're like. And then I've got a negative 5x and a negative x, and those are like, so I'm going to combine them. It's really similar to the vertical, it's just that instead of aligning them vertically, you align them horizontally, and it really is personal preference. When you look at it, you most likely will have a preference for how it appears visually, which one makes most sense to you, just because that's how our brains work as people. If you don't have a preference, you can do it either way. I have a tendency in certain problems, I'll do horizontal because that's the way I learned it and that's the way I'm fastest, but some problems I do prefer the vertical and I do the vertical. All right, now that I have them, I'm going to combine my like. 4 plus 4 is 8. Remember the coefficients only. There is still no power change. Now I have 2 minus 3, which is negative 1, and I keep my same power. And now I have negative 5. Now remember, this has an invisible 1 in front of it. That's 1x, so negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6x. And that's my answer. Now, is it in order? This one happens to be because I wrote both of these. Oh, I guess I didn't write them in order, but I wrote this one in order. If it's not in order, right, on like a standardized test, they generally will put it in power order. So that's what you generally should do. This one was already in power order. If it wasn't, like in my class, I'll still take it because it's still a correct answer. You just want to be careful and understand that generally as a math person, you write it in this order because that's a math sentence. It's kind of like if you've ever learned a language where you don't speak the order the same as English, so like Spanish sometimes does opposites, German sometimes does opposites. It's not wrong to have it out of order, but it would be like saying to someone, to the bathroom, will I go? You know, when you're asking if you can go to the bathroom or you're saying I will go to the bathroom, a person could still understand it. It's just not the normal math way to write it. All right, so that was a quick adding and subtracting polynomials. If you feel like it would help you to see more intensive or something with more powers or with more pieces, go ahead and leave me a comment. You can subscribe if you would like. Well, up to you. I'm not your mom. I don't care. And you can like this video if that is what you are into. Have a great day.